Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blast Motion Podcast. I'm Kyle Attl, and today we're going to be talking to Erik Wagle. He is the owner of KPI Institute in Northern California and Alpha Baseball on the travel side. So they are a dual academy and then travel program. Really top tier in the Northern California region, just below Southern California. Erik has a ton of knowledge on training hitters on constraint-based environments. He's going to give us some tips on how they do and operate over at KPI, along with some takeaway drills that you might be able to try with your facility and your program to kind of always get better, which is our goal. So without further ado, let's hop in and jump into our conversation with Erik. Erik, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you start with a little bit of an intro, talk about your facility and your program? What do you guys value? Kind of how do you go about your business and what separates you guys out there?
On the facility side of things, we're entering our fourth year as Kinetic Performance Institute. We actually have two facilities now in Morgan Hill, California, which is just south of San Jose. We just opened our second facility in November of 2023. So a few months into that. We are ultra technology and data driven in our facilities. One facility serves our high school, college, pro baseball population. The other facility serves youth baseball, softball, and our physical therapy clinic. We have been using Blast even pre-KPI when it was just travel teams. And so we've been with the product a long time. We understand the product ins and outs. We've built our entire hitting program around Blast. And really, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of super cool technology in our facility. And I always tell people that little $100 bat sensor is our favorite thing. We just did get a Newt force mount, so I'm going to see if Blast can hold the throne as we kind of figure it out. So.
Yeah, what drove you guys towards using so much tech and being so versed in it?
Myself and my business partner Dan Cabullion, who runs our strength and kind of our operations, as we started to kind of combine forces and really start to build the KPI business model, it was really all about like, hey, how can we be different? How can we stand out in this baseball world? And then it transitioned into training, and we really wanted to create systems that could be objective, that could give athletes just data-driven points and milestones to go after, and that led to basically us just diving all the way in on the technological approach.
Nice. And that seems like now you guys are a little ahead of the curve since technology in baseball is being so widely used now. So it's good to see you have all that type of stuff. Let's dive kind of right into the training. Can you talk about some of the differences and similarities in training athletes of all ages? You've got younger players and older players, and how do you get the best training environments to kind of see improvements? Are there similarities, differences in working with different age groups, and how do you guys kind of go about that?
Well, through the years, we've really layered our hitting program and kind of have some graduations and advancement in it, but there are still some fundamentals that we train every athlete in. So we try to take the Blast metrics that we know affect on-field performance the most, and we really drive them home and create our hitting programs around that. So our 1.0 hitting program takes metrics like bat speed, attack angle, early connection, the things that we know affect on-field performance the most, and we're able to create layered hitting programs for each athlete based on those metrics. Obviously with young athletes, bat speed's it, right? We have to be able to get them to move the barrel faster. It's a lot like, I tell people all the time, it's a lot like pitching velocity. That doesn't make you a good hitter having good bat speed, but it is almost your barrier for entry to the next level and having success. So we really try to train that as much as possible at the younger ages, try to build skills at scale. And we know that we can refine the swing as they get older, but it's really hard to backtrack and get bat speed later on in the process for an athlete that's trying to make it. Having said that, we have 2.0, 3.0 progressions in our hitting program that really then we start to incorporate our force plate data and our mobility screens into those 2.0, 3.0 and match them with their Blast groups. And that's kind of the magic of our KPI hitting system there, is when we're able to take the technology from the different areas and combine them. But then we also see too with our really advanced college guys or even pro guys that we sometimes go back to bat speed because they have their swing metrics dialed in, and then it's just like, well, let's just move the barrel faster because we're going to get better outcomes because of it. So that's kind of how we approach using technology like Blast and how we build our hitting system.
Nice. Yeah, I like that simple approach. We've seen a lot of success, and you guys are a good example of this, is starting with one or two metrics to get a foundation, make sure that they have some of those prerequisites, and then you can start diving in and saying, all right, how can we adjust maybe the bat path with on plane, or like you said, early connection and the starting point of the swing. Are there specific drills or training methods that you guys have, whether you're in your facility or your team practices, that maybe listeners could take away and maybe use with their kids or players today if they're on their way to the field?
Really just looking at, obviously bat speed's pretty obvious. You want to rotate faster and then do things with high intensity. With stuff like attack angle, I would say that our attack angle drill sets are our most successful, where we can really affect change, not necessarily quickly, but effectively in athletes. And so, we get it all the way to the granularity of the way they take front toss. So a low attack angle guy, someone that has a flatter swing, we're going to throw them underhand front toss, because in our internal studies, we've seen that attack angle goes up 2 to 3 degrees just by going underhand front toss. So we want to kind of facilitate that movement pattern in them by throwing them underhand. On the flip side, we know that a guy that has a high attack angle, more uppercut in his swing, we're going to kind of get more overhand stuff with him, get a little higher velocity with his or her front toss and machine work, because we know naturally, right, they're gonna drive that backside a little quicker and get that barrel out a little flatter when they have that type of constraint coming at them.
Nice. So you guys change changing the environment to kind of trigger what that athlete's trying to do with certain metrics. I really like that you brought up this like quickly versus effective. A lot of times people want to see changes right away. Can you speak a little bit about making sure that training is effective and we're tracking over time to kind of see the right amount of progress as time goes on?
Yeah, you really just kind of outlined our business model there. But we're all about play chess, not checkers, and to truly enhance and change and create new movement patterns, it is a long-term process, and we really try to push back against the online gurus and the people out there that say, just come to me and pay me this amount of money for a lesson or a session, then all of a sudden you're gonna get the magic. There's no magic out there. It's all about having objective data all the time to create baselines for yourself, where your normative ranges, and then training your deficiencies over and over again, and having that objective data, know that you're getting better and know that you're moving the direction you need to go. And that's a cool part about Blast and other pieces of technology that we have, is we know what Division I hitters and professional hitters do. Like, we know those are facts. So that data is out there. So we want to drive our hitters constantly towards that. We know for a fact that high school, I think you guys have published, high school hitters have about a 0 to 1.5, 2 degrees attack angle. High school hitters generally have swings are too flat. We know college professional guys are between 8, 12, 13 degrees. We're going to drive them there. We're going to push them that direction, because if the best hitters in the world are doing it, and that is the filter to get to the next level, then yeah, let's just go for that. There doesn't have to be opinion in the matter.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And you have that data set with Blast to be able to reference to see where people should be. Can you talk us through, maybe if we all closed our eyes and visualized what some of your tunnels look like at your facility? What do certain drills or cages emphasize as people kind of work through maybe like an open hitting session where there's a group of players there? They're going to filter through different cages. What do some of those cages look like from a drill training? Maybe speak to some of the tools that you guys are using, heavy bats, light bats, things like that, so people can really visualize maybe what that looks like.
Absolutely. Everything in our facility is a skill session and a strength session in one. So they're going to have a customized warm-up routine based on their mobility levels. So they could be an activation or a mobilized athlete, depending on how we tested them. So they go through about a 30-minute mobility. At the end of those 30 minutes, they'll start their T work with us. Plyo balls, bat speed drills, really kind of low-hanging fruit there, as far as just like the things everyone need to do all the time to kind of move the barrel faster and more efficiently. For us, our hitters will progress into a Proteus station, where they'll go through Proteus training, rotational acceleration, those kinds of things on the Proteus. And then we get into our cages. Depending on the size of the group, there might be 2 or 3 stations, depending. But everything's going to start with machine work on their Blast group, basically our 1.0 hitting program. So they're going to be placed in a Blast group based on their swing deficiencies and their profile that we want them in. They're going to have customized drills in that tunnel to go through. There's going to be overload bats, underload bats, maybe a different environment depending on what we want to do that day. We have a whole bunch of machines, so we can create all kinds of different things. We have a lot of our machines set to like Blast group, high attack angle. They get this sequence on the machine, to kind of elicit the swing we want out of them. And then that'll kind of take them to the last 15, 20 minutes. And then we usually do some kind of a creative environment, whether it's competitive, whether it's 2 machines, breaking ball, fastball, angled stuff. We're just going to do something to get like a different, get the juices flowing a little bit, basically, and get them competing somehow and challenged. There's TVs everywhere. So we have hit tracks in all of our tunnels. So there's hit tracks on the top TV. There's whatever blast number we want them looking at on the bottom TV. So they're getting constant objective feedback, and they're able to look at all times at what we want them working on. And then they kind of cross-reference their batted ball metrics right on the top TV to kind of, get that, feedback they're looking for.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know you guys have a lot of, your facility is really well built out, but for a lot of our listeners, we try and push the fact that some of the key things that you were talking about was being progressive. You start with the mobility routine. You start with some of the low-hanging fruit that is going to help a lot of hitters no matter what, whether it's heavy balls, heavy bats, plyo balls, getting there, starting to hit, and then getting towards their specific training. Do you think that helps hitters kind of build a routine on how to get ready, and that's really valuable for them? Do you guys see that, and is that something that you guys push where, the drill work not only helps you improve certain things, but it's helping you keep calibrated as time goes on? So, you're building those foundational movements that are happening all the time and you're getting more consistent with them?
100%. Like we are, not necessarily extreme, but pretty diligent with the constraints-led approach and using the drills to facilitate the movements we want. We do very little external cueing with the athletes. We really kind of program them is our language for it. We program out what we want them to do. So that's kind of one of the beauties of Blast, especially with your guys' app. The kid's going to test, and if he has low connection, your guys are going to give him a red, click on the score. Now here's the drills you do, Science and research has shown us that the constraints-led approach is the most effective way to learn new movement patterns. There's really no disputing that. And so just being able to constantly have purpose and internal cues on what you're working on in your swing, and then just doing it over and over with feedback is 100% the best way to do it.
That's awesome. Can you talk, how have your players taken in the data? Do they like it? Do they like seeing it? Do you see that there's an educational curve there? And what are some of the things you guys do as coaches within the facility to kind of help that education process? Someone comes in, they've never used Blast before. How quickly is that learning curve for them? And what's that feedback on getting some data?
It's definitely a challenge, especially when people come from the hitting lessons world to our environment, which is a group environment that's pretty fast-paced and dynamic. It really starts in our assessment process, and we're doing a better and better job of educating people during the assessment. We should just give the assessment, send them out to their skill session, and then just kind of hope they figure it out. We really kind of go slow now and explain it in the assessment. Like, hey, here's our philosophy on hitting. Here's our philosophy on constraints-led approach. We're not going to sit there and tell you to do this with your elbow or your hands during your session. We're going to give you a drill that works on it. So we've had to really, educate people on that. And even when we do that, it is a challenge, people are driven towards wanting one-on-one feedback, and they want to really go slow and get someone to sit there and tinker with them per se. Whereas we're in our environment, we're going to kind of challenge them and really use the drills to kind of coach them per se. So that's kind of how we approach that. We do have monthly data reporting. So we have a software hub, I guess, where we take all the data from all the technology and we put it in one profile for each athlete. So they're able to see their monthly progress each month. So for example, the blast numbers would be there for them. They'll be able to see month to month how they're doing. We check that on our end as well every month, and we want to make sure that they're progressing the way we want them to progress, or maybe they're in a really good spot and they're staying in a really good spot, and they're not losing their swing somewhere.
Yeah, working towards improvements and then staying calibrated is a big thing for progression throughout the year. Getting into the drills, can you speak maybe to just a couple of your guys' favorites or go-to drills and what metrics those really tie to? Maybe think a little bit more about someone who's just joining your program, might not have done them for the first time. Really give some of our listeners like a takeaway where they can maybe implement or try a couple of these drills that are constraint-based training and tie a blast metric to it.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, looking at bat speed, we love the underload, overload trainers along with the blast drills, just moving the barrel fast and doing different things to create momentum in the body. So we use a lot of overload, underload training. We sometimes can kind of lean towards underload with the bat speed guys, just really kind of create some twitch and more speed in their swing and let them feel that. So much of what we have to overcome in the hitting training in our environment is that coaches that kind of teach players controlled swings. Like we want them to be a little out of control. We want them to be really aggressive with their swing. So sometimes putting that lighter bat in their hand can just allow them to just let it fly. On the flip side, something we do with high early connection guys that are really vertical with their hands at their swing is we put the 37-37 in their hand. We call it the log. So that really just forces them, because it's so heavy and long, as they start their swing, they slot in really nicely to that 90. So that's a really common thing that we'll do with high early connection guys is put that log in their hand and really let them swing. And that's a perfect example of the constraints led approach. Like the drill and the constraint is going to force them into the movement we want. High attack angle or low attack angle guys will put the high T in the log in their hands. Same concept, right? We really want to force that barrel forward, force that direction with the backside so they can get out of that uppercut swing a little bit. And then short bat work with low attack angle guys that, are too flat in their swing. Putting the short bat in their hand will create a little bit more posture. We'll kind of force that backside to get on plane better. And those are probably some real basic examples. We have 3 hitting levels for each blast group, so we got quite a few drills, but I would say those are some, I guess, basic examples of each one of those metrics.
Yeah, I like those a lot. So for guys that have high attack angles and they're swinging straight up, you guys do the high T with the log. If attack angles are a little bit more flat, you put a short bat in their hand, really make sure that they can get under the ball and kind of get that positive attack angle. That's awesome.
Just to interrupt you, something else we do while we're doing these drills, because a lot of times kids are nervous with these stuffs, especially if the balls come out of machines, we use the foamies in the machines. So there's a few different brands out there that have the hard foam balls in machines, and it takes away the fear from the kids to have a short bat in their hand and to hit a ball coming out of a pitching machine. So I definitely highly recommend, if people are going to do these things with pitching machines, which we do, we don't do front toss and soft toss in our facility. It's all off the machines, is to use the foamies. It really helps kind of take away some of those fears of using those training bats in that environment. Yeah,
that's a great training tip. Those are so good to hit velo and really not be nervous about getting jammed and needing to picking your thumbs up. Now that we've got some of the drills, can you talk, maybe are there a few player success stories in your programs where you saw something in an athlete, you changed it, and then they're starting to see a lot more on-field performance? Can you talk through maybe some of those examples that come to mind?
Yeah, we had a kid, Wyatt King. He's down at Cal Poly right now. He was one of the first kids to really kind of come into our facility as a high-level hitter. We've had a ton of high-level pitchers early, and then we've developed our hitting program as that's kind of happened. But he was a really high early connection guy, and he got disconnected in his swing really early. He was very rotational. Back then we used to use one of those vests, I guess I won't say the company, that tracks kinematic sequence and velocities. And, we saw that he had a lot of high level rotation in his swing, but he was just very disconnected. So, we were able to kind of really implement this approach with him, and it was during COVID. So we had time basically without him in the game environment. And we really just broke down a swing for a year and saw that hey, this kid really took off with this approach and really took this nice starting point of a hitter that could really move the barrel and rotate, but was just not in the right spot with his swing. And we're able to kind of use the training environment to kind of get him to a good spot. He signed a Division I scholarship. And then, he's done really well.
That's awesome. We love seeing those 6 stories. I mean, those are my favorite things to hear when you're at ABCA and you hear stories of players making adjustments and seeing a lot of performance on the field. That's what we like to see. Last question here before we kind of wrap this up and we get to know how we can get a hold of you and see some more of your stuff on KPI and your programs. If you were talking to somebody about Blast for the first time, what metrics would you emphasize, maybe 2 or 3 right out of the gate with a younger kid? And then if you were going to work with someone who's older and a little bit more developed, would those metrics change? And what metrics would you emphasize there for that? So in summary, younger kids, what are some metrics that you focus on? And then if you got older kids, what are some of those?
I think the first 2 for younger kids is 1, bat speed, and then attack angle. I think, having gone to the Dominican a couple times and seen their developmental model versus our developmental model, I really think that we overemphasize contact and protecting the plate and stuff like that at the younger ages, and we do our kids a huge disservice. I think letting kids move the barrel fast and really developing big tools at a young age is super, super important. We see it all the time in our plays. When we put a 12-year-old with a blast sensor on and we show them his bat speed and they start swinging hard, they're going to find their own motor preferences and they're going to find that good path on their own. So I would definitely recommend bat speed. Then attack angle too, just because we know it's such a filter. Like we know that there's dramatic differences between the lower levels and the upper levels in attack angle, that getting that swing, dialed in, I guess, at a young age with the angle is really, really important. A few more granular things that we get into, like I mentioned before, early connection. We go back to the early connection and attack angle definitely are related to each other, and we found that out. I do think attack angle is a little bit more low-hanging fruit, where early connection is a little bit more nuanced. But that would be the next level. And then we've gotten into rotational acceleration more and more. I mean, really, as Blast has kind of really improved the reporting there, and we're able to see some of those profiles that you guys have given us on our athletes, and how rotational acceleration can really affect performance, that 0 to 60 concept of the swing. So I would say those two are like the next graduation past attack angle and bat speed.
Yeah, those are good. And for our listeners that are kind of getting deep dives on these metrics or hearing them for the first time, bat speed is going to be speed at impact. Rotational acceleration is more of that early acceleration of the bat. What does the bat feel? Are we using the whole body to accelerate it? So that's really important for kids at higher levels. And early connection is going to be, like you said, that vertical bat angle to the body and the starting point of the swing. High early connection just means that your bat is more straight up and down as you start your swing. And when you're doing that, you're kind of making a lot of adjustments. But those are great examples. Erik, you clearly have a ton of knowledge. You're speaking to this like you do it every day, which is what you do. How can people learn more about KPI and Alpha Baseball, social channels, things like that? If people want to learn more about what you guys are doing, what are some of those best things we can see?
For sure, on the KPI side of things, Kinetic Performance Institute, KPI MH on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I think we're there. I don't think we do a very good job, but we're there somewhere. But all the normal channels. My personal Twitter is Erik Wagle 11. On the Alpha side of things, Alpha Baseball. I think it's Alpha Movement BB on Twitter. But yeah, if you just go Alpha Baseball, it'll pop up. And then that's a way to get a hold of us. New frontier for us that we're really excited about as our umbrella has grown in Northern California. We're really getting a lot of teams underneath us. And so we're kind of taking those millions of swings we have in the training environment and getting a lot of on-field swings and being able to cross-reference and really see like, hey, like this kid in our training environment does this, but on the field he does this. And that's helping us a ton in the training environment. So we're really excited, to kind of like take this to the next level. And if you kind of see any one of my teams out there somewhere, between the different entities, you're going to see the sensor on there now. And we're, our hitting director, Chase Spivey, who does an incredible job. He's working on that as we speak, and he's building out basically correlations and stuff like that. So I think that's our next frontier, is taking that on-field data and kind of using it in the training environment now.
That's awesome. In-game is so valuable because you can see, just like you said, the difference between training and in-game. So that way we can see what's really translated on the field. Erik, thank you so much for joining us today. Your knowledge was really appreciated. I hope our listeners enjoyed. For those of you listening, we'll see you guys next episode, and thank you for your time.